Hello. Welcome to the BATTASS Podcast, the Batman the Animated Series show podcast, where we talk about Batman the Animated Series, and in this case, Batman Beyond. My name is Clay McCormick, and with me, as always, is Sean Murphy. How you doing, Sean?
Hey man, that's some people won't know this, but that was your third take.
It was the third take. You know,
I don't wanted you to leave the bloopers in.
No, it was that's if they were tighter, it would be more interesting, but it was not. It was a lot of me trying to remember how to do this because it's been a while since we've done it.
Yeah, why has it been so long exactly? I mean, we haven't released the first episode yet, so no one will notice that it's been a few months, but
it's mainly because October is basically the busiest month of my year, where I have stuff to do literally every week and every weekend. So and it's New York Comic Con is that month, so everybody's all over the place. So I think now that we're moving into holiday season, it should be a lot easier.
Yeah, man. Definitely.
But
I'm excited. I should be done with my Batman Beyond in December, middle of December. So I'm really looking forward to being finished, so I can finally take a vacation.
I was thinking about
pretty exhausted.
Oh, I bet, yeah. It's basically been what, 5 straight years of Batman?
Yeah, with breaks, and every time I try
holes,
to trying to create a schedule that's more relaxed and normal where I can have time off and all that, it just always goes away. As much as I try to pad it, I just can't do it. So my wife this time, she's like, when you start doing Zorro, we're going to look at your schedule together. I'm going to remind you that you're going to probably take a few sick days. You're going to need this. You're going to need that, blah, blah, blah. Vacation, travel, whatever. So hopefully with her help, I'll be able to get a handle on it.
Nice. I was thinking the other day, I was like, man, we've only done, at this point, we'd only done the first 2 episodes of Batman Beyond. You're going to be done with your book. Is the drive to do more Batman podcasts just going to disappear? Because it's like, well, we're kind of on to other things for a while at least. But, I mean, we kept it going through plot holes, so I can't imagine why we would stop now.
Yeah, no, I'm good. But I did think of that too. When I'm putting it on, I'm like, man, I don't know what else I have to say about Batman Beyond, considering I'm about to wrap up and we're just starting season 2. But if we're going to keep going, we're going to be doing Justice League and all that stuff eventually. So we can keep going.
Yeah. But for now, today we're doing 2 episodes from season 2 of Batman Beyond. We are doing Joyride and Lost Soul. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with Joyride.
I'm telling you, Scab, it was a UFO.
Who cares? We got something more important to do.
Oh, yeah. We do, don't we?
You know why the Jokerz come all the way out here to do our initiations?
So no one can hear you scream.
Okay, Joyride, written by Stan Berkowitz, directed by Butch Lukic. Jeez, it's been 4 years and I still can't pronounce this guy's name. And in this one, Jesus, I'm bad at this. It's been too long.
Groper?
A groper.
Man, that sounds more interesting.
A groper Joker. No, a group of Jokers steals a prototype military vehicle and go. And it's not like I haven't been doing this on other shows. Like I've still been doing
podcasting with other people.
Yeah, it's just Batman requires a certain language that you have to wrap your
with
face around.
Our relationship, Clay, I allow you to go philander with other podcasts, so it's not like you've stepped away completely from this.
A group of Jokers steals a prototype military vehicle and goes on a rampage of destruction while Batman and the vehicle's designer try to recover the machine before its malfunctioning reactor goes critical and causes a nuclear explosion that would destroy the city. So first thing that's interesting to note about this one is I believe Bruce Wayne only has one line in this episode, which is he says, so stop them. The trivia says Bruce's one line is the shortest that Kevin Conroy has recorded for a single episode in the whole DCAU. And that kind of brings me to something that I felt about this episode definitely, but actually both of them together. And I'm wondering if this is sort of a trend in this show. Yeah. I feel like this show is definitely skewing more towards action. Like compared to Batman the Animated Series, the amount of dialogue in this show is like way down. It's a
Yeah.
lot of just kind of Terry or just act like this whole episode is basically one big action scene. And like I was kind of wondering if we were going to have much to say about it because there's not really a ton of story here and it is all action.
Right.
Right.
I have, for me, the beginning part where they're going to do Joker initiation, that got me excited. And then they go to a cave, and in the cave is a skeleton of what looks like Joker's dead body.
Right, yeah.
And then instead of going down that path and showing an awesome episode of torturing this kid to become a Joker, they do a right turn, and suddenly they're chasing down a military vehicle.
Yes,
And
they steal
I
a
was
spaceship.
so bummed out. Like, I want to know about that skeleton, man.
Yeah, that was the most interesting part of the episode is seeing the skeleton with the flower on and the implications you can draw from it.
Yeah, like you think it's probably not really Joker's body. It's just a body they dressed up, or maybe it is. I don't know. I mean, you could take it in a bunch of different directions,
Yeah. I was. I'm not quite as interested in the Joker gang steals a military vehicle and then just kind of does a bunch of mischief. I don't know. It's not. I didn't find it particularly fun. Like I feel like in the animated series, this would they've had episodes like this, whether it's I guess Roxy Rocket is kind of like this, or even when Harley and Ivy go on a rampage and stuff. There's more fun to it, but this one was pretty straightforward. Just Batman has to stop the stolen vehicle before it explodes.
The subplot, if you can call it that, is a new Joker recruit going through initiation, and he's sort of brought along this adventure of the Joker gang, using this machine to blow up a bunch of shit. By the end of it, Terry is pinned by the lead Joker, and this new recruit guy knocks him out to help Batman, basically. And all right, so you can tell he's disenfranchised of becoming a Joker. I get it. It's super quick, but why not lean more into that? I mean, if you went the route of explaining that awesome Joker skeleton, you could have really made that character something better. You know what I mean? And really had a much better subplot than what we had. But yeah, I think the show, the suits probably came and they were like, no, just give us as much action as you can. That's what kids like. If you want to throw a subplot in, you got to make it super quick. But we don't want to dwell. We don't want episodes where it's like Batman's helping a little girl from her dad who won't leave them alone because of restraining order. Like the classic ones that I like. See no evil.
Yeah. It's like they said, listen, we don't want you to spend time dwelling on the dead body of possibly the Joker. And they were like, okay, we'll do what you want. And then a couple years later, like, we're going to do an entire 2-hour movie just about the Joker's dead body, and you're going to fucking hate it. And prove that that's a better story to go to explore.
Right. The other interesting part of this show, the question that it poses is these kids think that what they're seeing might be a UFO, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which begs the question, in the future, when everyone has flying cars and there's all kinds of weird shit floating around in the sky, will UFO sightings go away completely?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine why you would, in a world of flying cars, why you would look into the sky and see something flying and be confused about what it might be. Which, honestly, if you're an alien, is better for you because then you can just blend in and you don't have to worry about any fucking Air Force guy blowing your cover.
That's true. You just blend in with the traffic. Be like, what is that? It's a triangle shape in the sky. It's like, yeah, that's my dad coming home from work probably.
No one's going to notice until a UFO blows a red light and causes a collision, and then they're like, wait, why does this little gray guy not have insurance?
Or he's parked way too long in the handicap spot, and someone comes by, and he's like, wait a minute.
Yes, no human would take that many turns to back out of a parking space.
Clearly this UFO is from... the person is a UFO because they should be taking a ride on red, and they're not.
Yes. They're either a UFO or from any other state aside from Massachusetts or New Hampshire. Is that how that works? Is Right on Red only a New England thing? I never remember.
It is a national thing.
It is. Oh, okay.
It's the greatest thing that the U.S. Road system has contributed. A Right on Red is illegal in most other countries, but it's a pure American invention, and it's amazing.
I know this is riveting Batman podcasting, and it goes to show how much there is to talk about this episode. But for some reason, I thought you couldn't do it in New York.
So in New York City, I don't think you're allowed to.
All
The
right,
city
that makes
limits.
sense. Yeah.
But you're talking to a guy that doesn't even get his car inspected, so I'm probably wrong.
That's true. Yeah. So this one, I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's there's not really much there. Honestly, it's even the exploding vehicle thing isn't really that interesting because they don't really follow up on that until the last couple minutes of the episode. And so you don't really get the sense because they don't even tell you what is going on. So there's no real sense of it being like a ticking clock. It's just like they send in the two pilot guys send in the stats, and they're like, well, it's at 280, and she's like, 280. Get out of there.
Dun, dun, dun.
Why do we have to get out of here? We don't have time to tell you what's going on. Just get out of there. If I was going to eject out of a probably $1 billion aircraft, I would at least like to know why.
Right. Yeah. Like in Tom Cruise Maverick, I'm pretty sure they give him an explanation before he has to get out of there.
Right.
At the beginning.
And
why not just say at the beginning, get out, it's going to explode. And they're like, oh shit. And then they park it and the engine seems fine. And then it gets stolen and hijacked and turned on again. Why not do that?
Yeah, I don't know why they keep that like a secret for most of the episode. It doesn't really add anything by keeping it a secret. It actually takes away from it because now you have the Jokerz tooling. If you knew what was going on, the Jokerz are tooling around in a spaceship or whatever that you know is going to blow up. So I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Or make the girl evil and she refuses Batman's help. And she refuses to take responsibility and admit what it is. And her efforts to take it down are thwarted, or they don't work. And he has to save it. Maybe he takes the ship down while taking the military down too. Like you could have had a lot more action that way, where he's fighting the military who are trying to keep things undercover, but he's exposing it by attacking it or something. But yeah, like any of those ideas are more interesting than what they did.
Or you could just get really weird with it, and he's like, "What is so important about this ship? Why do you have to save it?" And she's like, "That ship is my husband."
That kind of gets us into the next episode.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Hijacked by intelligence.
I mean, I guess I don't want to pad it if we don't have anything else to say about the episode. What would you draw? What would you draw in this one?
Draw a new script.
The one thing I did want to mention is the T gang. I don't know anything
where did
about
they come
them.
from?
I don't know because they look like Mr. Terrific, who's a DC character who has the modern version of him anyway has that like T makeup look on his face.
Yeah.
But I don't think they are connected to that in any meaningful way.
With the red on their face, to me they look like the Azrael gang that I drew into my book.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
Thought, man,
yeah.
If I ever had, that'll be my answer. If I had to, I would redraw them all as Azraels and make this part of my universe. Which would make no sense in this universe at all, but whatever.
No, but it would add some interesting backstory about why is there a gang based on this character that we've never heard of before.
You're right. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you for pointing out how clever that was, Clay.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, actually, if the impetus for Batman quitting and Batman Beyond was getting his back broken by Bane, that would be, and then Azrael took over afterward. There's so much. There was. I feel like there's kind of a lot of stuff left on the table there. Where if you had, I mean, it makes things too complicated. But like if the setup, if Azrael did exist in this universe and had taken over for Batman when his back got broken. Now there's someone else out there who had been Batman for a while in addition to Terry, and you can kind of like tell that story at some point if you wanted to, but obviously they didn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Azrael is a great idea. You can do so much with Azrael as a character. I don't think that mainstream comics ever really used everything they could on him. You know?
Yeah, comics are, unsurprisingly, I'm going to make this comparison, but comics tend to be like wrestling in that way where, if you've got a character that you're bringing in really hot and you're bringing them in specifically. I mean, it works in movies too. Like think about Rocky 3, right?
Yeah.
You got Clubber Lang, who is the greatest boxer in the world, second only to Rocky. And he's this big, mean machine, and he destroys Rocky, and then Rocky obviously comes back and he beats Clubber Lang. And then in the universe of Rocky, Clubber Lang just disappears. And I think you run into that problem when you have these characters who are brought in for a very specific purpose. Like, you now have to figure out what to do with them next. And when their whole purpose was, you know, they've managed to figure out to a certain extent what to do with Bane here and there. He's never been super consistent, but Bane's whole thing was he's there to break Batman's back, and then once you resolve that story, it's like, well, okay, I mean, I guess we can do some other stuff with him.
I want to see Creed now. I want to see Creed where Mr. T
where Creed fights Bane.
Where Mr. T trains Creed.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I was thinking about that when the new Creed movie got announced and they were talking about it. I was like, well, I mean, they've never touched on what happened to Clubber Lang, but then I'm like, that's just too contrived at that point. I mean, they've already done Drago. Right. Drago at least thematically makes sense to touch on because he obviously killed Apollo. But like, if you're bringing back Clubber Lang just for the hell of it, now you're entering like Star Wars territory.
Yeah, but at this point though, why not? I'd see it. I'd get excited about that. You don't have to do anything really bad. Like, you thought Apollo was your father. It's actually Clubber Lang. 'Cause they both banged your mom at the same time that one night.
That would be quite a turn. Yes.
Also, Apollo totally stabbed Rocky in the back because he was having three-ways with Clubber Lang.
Right. Yes.
Maybe
this
isn't a good idea.
How much is the license for the Rocky universe? Maybe that should be the next book you do.
Yeah. It's funny.
So what was you would redesign the T's? Is that what you were saying?
I would draw them all as Azraels, just to imply that there was this really cool bunch of episodes that we never saw.
Yeah.
Where Azrael was a character, he was a thing, he retired, whatever.
Yeah. I looked them up very briefly. It does not seem like they are really based on anything specific.
Right.
So
I guess I'd draw Joker's body in the cave.
Oh yeah.
I figured that would be yours.
I may have said this in the last season, I don't remember. But I feel like the Jokerz need a redesign. The gang. They're all fairly bland looking. I mean, you get the point across where they do the clown thing, but they're not super interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe I would do that. Although when I was in New York, I got a commission to do this character, Martial Law. He's a British character who was drawn by Kevin O'Neill, the guy who did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah.
And, man, he was a tough character to draw, not only because Kevin O'Neill has a very distinctive style, but he's got so much shit on him. Like his costume is insane. And as I was drawing it, it took me like 2 hours to draw the damn thing. And I was thinking, how do you do this panel to panel across 22 pages of comics? He's got so much shit all over him. He's got words on him. He's got straps and stuff and like little tiny chains and big chains and badges and shit. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah. I understand. I mean, I understand why all of the early superhero costumes are just like spandex, because this shit takes forever to draw. And I don't know how people, I have a lot of sympathy for people now drawing superhero comics because the movie designs and stuff have started to creep in, and those things can be so complex that you're spending your whole day just rendering like pouches and shit, or like seams and textures that just feel like it takes forever. Yeah.
Like to render Iron Man now, you need like a degree in engineering or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or honestly,
I hate to say it, but if you're gonna go digital, Iron Man makes sense because you could just move the robot around in space and then just paste him where you need him and then render. I mean, that sucks. Like, I don't want to see that kind of Iron Man, but he's so complicated now that I can see why people would have the impulse.
Honestly, the thing that stands out to me a lot is actually boots, because I think about like Captain America. When they designed Captain America, he's got these big red weird floppy like swashbuckler boots, right?
Uh-huh.
Easy to draw for the most part. Kind of interesting to look at, a little bit different. And now, if you're going to draw Captain America, you need to draw like military accurate tactical boots with every eyelet in the right place, and the way that the sole of the boot is split up for the treads and stuff needs to be on point. And it's just like that's like a whole day just rendering boots.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to, if you're going to draw in a clean style where everything is rendered carefully and accurately, then you're sort of screwing yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a Jim Mahfood, if you're someone who draws looser, maybe even like me, you can get away with like scribbling in what looks like a gun, scribbling in what looks like a pouch. You know, Mike Mignola's style is set up to sort of dumb all that stuff down in a good way, so it still reads as like, oh yeah, that's Captain America's boot, and it looks good, it looks military accurate. But you know, the whole vision of the book is sort of a little twisted, so it kind of works, you know.
Yeah. What I'm saying is I understand why they stopped drawing feet in the 90s, because there was so much pouches and shit on everybody and so many guns. By the time you get to the feet, you're like, I don't want to deal with boots. I'm just going to put some smoke down there and then just call it a day.
It's funny, I've been loose when I draw Batman now. I've been drawing the same pouches for so long. I basically just pencil into some squares where pouches might be with a colored pencil, and then I just grab my quill and I start inking. So I can tell, like, oh, this is where the seam is. Here's where the tick marks are. Here's the overlap. Here's the buckle. Here's this. Here's where the knife goes. Like, it's just second nature now. Like, I don't even think about patches. It just comes right out, and I just can go straight to inks on that shit.
Yeah,
you know.
How
I'll
much?
bet that's what Rob Liefeld did too. Back, I mean, after you do it so often, you're like, I don't need to draw anatomy. What do the abs look like when they're twisted from this angle? Fuck it, just cover it with pouches. I know how to draw pouches.
How much thought do you put into pouch physics? Because anytime I have something on a character like a strap or a pouch or something, I tend to sometimes get hung up on like, well, okay, this thing's tight to their body, so if they're moving this way, the strap or the pouch is going to shift like this, but their leg is in the way, so can the pouch really go there? And then I do that for a while, and then I realize it's a fucking comic book. Just do whatever you want.
Yeah. It's funny, I drew the Harley Noir costume. It's this Harley Quinn black and white suit that Bruce gave her. And it has this off-kilter pouch just on one side, and it hangs across her abs diagonally. And it looks good if you're looking at it straight on. And if you're looking at it from the side, you know, like it mostly works from most angles. But if you have her, so J. Scott Campbell did a cover of her, and he had her crouched and her knee was up. So the pouch was bent, and you could tell he was struggling with like, how the fuck is this thing supposed to stay on her body? And I admit, like, I don't know what I would have done either. But I mean, in the end, I love the cover. But I look at the pouch and I'm like, yeah, that would just slide right off her ass. It's not a great design. I mean, if it was me, I probably would have changed it for that panel just to fix it, and then hopefully no one would notice. But you know, Scott's trying to, you know, honor my design, so I'm glad he did it. But it definitely showed the flaw in what I'd come up with.
Yeah, that stuff is always so interesting because, like, I know I've talked about this before, but like I designed this robot suit, like military suit, for the book Redline that I did, and I designed this helmet, and I designed it from the side, and from the side it looked pretty cool, and then I realized I had to draw it a lot like dead on front and center, and I was like, I don't even know how to do this. It's just really boring looking. And every time this person moves their head, now I have to figure out how this design I made from the side works in space, and it's that stuff that can you kind of don't. It's not the first thing in your brain when you're designing things. Sometimes like, oh, this looks really cool. It's like, well, what does it look like from a 3/4 view? And it's like, oh, I actually have no idea, and now I understand why they do turnarounds for animation.
Yeah, you know, I try to do that stuff very carefully, like especially when I'm designing a Batmobile, something three-dimensional. I would go out of my way to make sure it looks good from every angle. There's always a key design feature that stands out from every angle. Like, it's super important. But then I did Jason Todd's helmet, which only works from the side. I totally forgot to draw it straight on. And I mean, when it's straight on, I can make it work, but there's just not a lot to play with there. Like if you have him looking sideways.
Yeah,
so he's one of the few instances where I screwed that up.
I noticed based on the covers for the Red Hood book, I was like, oh, everybody pretty much realized you can only draw this from the side.
Yeah. And there's ways to do it from other angles that I had to work to figure it out, though. I had to
Yeah.
dig myself out of a design hole. But if you're just a new artist coming to it fresh, you're like, whatever, man, just make this easy on me. I'm
Right.
drawing it
Right.
from the side.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of drawing things, I would draw. I said the Joker gang, right? Yeah, that's probably what I would do. That's what started
Yeah.
the rant to begin with.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
would you rate this episode?
Oh, I don't know. I think a 3 is generous.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 2 actually, because I feel like we give out a lot of 3s.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna go with a 2 because it's
Okay.
like it's just kind of it's not very spectacular, and it
Yeah.
comes close to being one that I would recommend if they had done something with the Joker stuff, like the possibility of his body being down that hole, but clearly they don't. So
Yeah.
like I wouldn't. If you were watching through it, I would say you could skip this one easily and not miss anything.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, that's going to do it for Joyride. We're going to take a quick break, and we will come back and talk about Lost.
Did you get that? Hello? Can you hear me?
Stop shouting. I can hear you perfectly well.
Who's that?
Robert Vance is my name.
The computer guy? But you're...
Dead? Rebooted is more like it.
The laser hit downloaded you into my suit's computers.
It's a loose fit, but I'm sure I'll grow into it. Don't even try to resist. The suit's much stronger than you are.
Terry! Terry!
You're more trouble than you're worth.
You haven't even seen trouble yet.
Okay, Lost Soul, written by Stan Berkowitz, and another one directed by Butch Lukic. And in this one, Terry must fight the Batsuit when it is taken over by the virtual soul of dead communications tycoon Robert Vance, a man who has literally become a ghost in the machine. Without the aid of his suit, he must save the man's grandson from becoming a vessel for Vance's virtual brain.
I like this one, man.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised how intrigued I was.
Yeah, this one was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Again, it's one that seems to lean into action over story, but the stuff that's actually going on is fairly interesting, and the thing taking over the Batsuit is really fun.
Yeah.
I feel like
definitely.
How do you feel about? I think there's a missed opportunity to either let Terry wear one of the old Batsuits.
Oh my God, yes. I was like screaming at the TV. Like,
Yeah.
fucking give him the old Batmobile.
Yeah, or the other thing I was thinking of is if he went over to the case full of suits and like took something from each uniform. So like he takes the Batman mask, and then he takes like, I know he doesn't wear a jacket in the cartoon, but like if he took Nightwing's jacket and like, Robin's staff or something, that would have been kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. And storytelling wise too, it's a big moment. But then he would look like this like clown Batman with just patchwork of different colors and suits.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like putting him in the old Batsuit. I guess having him take Nightwing's mask is fun, but it's not as fun as if he, had the whole suit or something.
Yeah.
It seems like a missed
Like
opportunity.
Bruce is like, oh, I'd give you a suit, but they're all filled with bullet holes and blah blah blah. It's like you don't have a fresh one that is slightly smaller. I mean, you got everything else in this cave.
Yeah,
Like, I would have absolutely had Terry put on the old Bat costume. I would have had a reason why the flying Batmobile didn't work. He had to use either like one of the old motorcycles or one of something. Like you could. That stuff would have been so fucking cool.
Yeah.
I did like him in the Nightwing mask and Batman's belt. Like I thought that was still a cool look with his hair and his jacket and stuff.
Yeah.
That's probably the thing that I would have drawn is just him showing up as Batman / Nightwing, but that I would have given him the old Batmobile as well.
Yeah. There was a couple things that I, I'm always a big fan of if you have futuristic stuff at the beginning of the story, taking it away and having to use the old stuff. Like that's one of the things. I almost fucking stood up and cheered in Top Gun because like that's it makes such perfect sense to do that in a story when you've got, if the whole point of your story is like, oh, we've got this new technology that works great. Well, then obviously in the climax you take away the technology and you use something older.
Yeah.
And so I didn't. The best part about it was I didn't even see it coming. Like it's such an afterthought, like throw in line of like, oh yeah, they also have F-14s. So you don't even you don't see it coming until it's like, oh shit, now he has to fight the more advanced future planes in the old F-14.
Yeah.
Of course, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, when they showed the F-14, I was like, Tom Cruise is getting in that thing. I knew it. But that's his Batmobile. You got to get him in that thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I was in this episode specifically. What was the deal with the door, the Batcave door? Because there was it was a blackout, so they couldn't use the automated door or something.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, you're gonna have to go out the old-fashioned way. And they just cut to a door, and I couldn't figure out what the problem was. Like, can you?
Yeah.
Do you have to like?
And they linger on it too. None of the Robins complain. Like they complain, like, okay, so Terry's gonna have to do something really cool and old school. This is gonna be awesome. Like I thought that's when you would see him driving the old Batmobile or the old Bat airplane or whatever.
Right. Right.
But no, it's just a door that he had to unwinch or whatever.
Yeah, it's like
like a drawbridge.
You're gonna need to find the keys for this one, Terry. I don't know. It's a weird. There's a couple beats like that where I think we're supposed to be sort of like jokey technology beats that I didn't think really worked.
Right. Yeah. Terry's stuck in the elevator with his girlfriend, and him knowing about. She's like, manual elevators? You mean you had to push a button? Like, yeah, there's buttons all over the city that we still have to push. Like, she should know what buttons are.
And I was trying to figure out, is the elevator voice, is it like the turbo lift? Is it voice activated?
Unclear.
Because otherwise I was thinking like, well, if there's no buttons, how does it know what floor to let you off in?
I don't know, man. They reminded me of the outside elevator from Last Action Hero.
Oh, yeah.
There's a
definitely.
whole fight scene. Yeah. Door glass elevators seem fun, but I don't think I'd ever want to be stuck in one.
One time when I was in New York, I went to a bar, one of those like skyscraper bars in 42nd Street or whatever, on top of like a hotel. And in order to get there, you had to do an elevator that was one of those ones that's like right in the middle of the building, and it's a glass elevator, so you can see the whole thing.
I've been to that bar, that restaurant. Yeah,
and
I know what you're talking about.
I don't do well with heights. Holy shit, that elevator freaked the shit out. I almost couldn't deal with it. Like I had to like zen myself to someplace else while that thing was going up. It was rough.
Yeah, you're in like a glass tube in the middle of a building surrounded like by open air, and you can look down, you see people way down in the lobby turn into ants, and it's going super fast. It skips a lot of floors because it has to get to the top. The restaurant on the top used to rotate. I don't think they have it turned on anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I forget.
Yeah, I don't remember it rotating when I was there, but
that's where I proposed to my wife, actually.
Oh, no kidding.
She totally knew what I was gonna do because out of the blue, I'm like, let's go to this really romantic restaurant that I can't afford.
Well, it's nice to know that the large bearded man freaking out on the elevator didn't ruin the night for you.
Yeah, we heard this screaming and something about he yelled a whole bunch of wrestling terms I didn't understand.
Yeah, and then started saying like, you're defying God's law by being this high in the air.
And they have skyscrapers where it's a little like at the top is a little bridge made of glass in like a half circle, so you can kind of like walk out over nothing and look down.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I don't fucking see the appeal of that shit. Or when you can when one of the windows leans out 90 degrees or whatever, so you can kind of lean over the abyss. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So
my girlfriend is a lot more adventurous with rides and stuff at amusement parks than I am these days. And when she was in Las Vegas, she did the rides on top of the Space Needle that they have out there. And she was telling me one of the rides, this is the entire ride, is you get into like a row of seats or whatever, like you would on a roller coaster. And then the thing just tips up and you slide forward, and then it just stops you short right at the edge of the Space Needle. And so basically, it's what Batman.
Gonna kill you.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
It's what Batman does to villains to torture them, basically, where he just hangs them over the edge of a building, and then except here you pay for it, and you're like, oh, that was fun, and you just lie to yourself about it.
I just pay someone $100 to hang me over a building and like pretend to drop me and then punch me a few times and then kick my dog and then I don't know, shake me around until I throw up. It doesn't sound fun at all. That shit.
Do you like roller coasters?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't mind the upside down stuff. I'm not afraid of heights. Like I was hiking yesterday and I was at the edge of a cliff and it was like a sheer 70-foot straight down drop.
Ooh,
if you
yikes.
It wasn't like a gradual thing where you would tumble and roll. Like you would touch air and then you would touch your death at the bottom, So I was like, whoa, we're right on the edge of a fucking cliff. It's right out of a movie. So I'm fine because I know that rock is not going to crumble. But if I'm standing on top of a building that man built and I don't trust engineers and I'm like, what if this thing fucking crumbles? Like that's when I get afraid of heights.
That's really interesting because like I would have a lot less faith in. I've seen movies. I know that people like lean over the edge of a cliff and then the edge of the cliff just breaks off. I've seen Wile E. Coyote cartoons. I know how this works.
That's true. Yeah.
Even on my porch, on my front porch, I get a little bit hesitant because our porch is really the, it's the roof, but it's like the overhang roof. So it's not like flat. It's like tipped down a bit. And the railing it's an old house, so the railing is definitely not up to code. So the railing comes to about like maybe hip height on me. And every time I'm out there, I'm like, all it would take is for me to like lose my footing once and I would just go right over that railing.
You would break it like the bed that I put you in at the cabin.
Yeah, well, I mean, this house has been around for 100 years, so as opposed to that bed that you would put together that day. So...
That bed was shitty and sorry. So some context here. I bought a cabin in New Hampshire. I had some friends up after a convention. It's guest rooms, 3 bathrooms.
Basically,
whatever.
to stress test the house.
And I put Clay in a queen bed, which is big enough for him. Clay's like 6'5",
6'3".
How much? 6'3". Okay. And I put it together that morning with Corinne, and I'm like, man, this bed just doesn't seem that well engineered. Like it's put together correctly, but like. This thing, there's no way this thing is going to last a year. So I put the slats down, the thing that's going to hold the mattress, and like the little dinky feet dangling down, there's just no structural integrity to them at all. So I'm like, well, maybe once the mattress is on, it'll solidify everything, which isn't a thing at all. So that night, Clay's in the room. I'm up in my master bed and going to sleep, and I can hear Clay walking around, and I hear him lay down and I hear some kind of creaking. I hear him get up and I hear him pacing a lot. And I'm like, oh shit, I should warn him about the bed because he might break the bed. And then I fell asleep. And then in the morning I woke up, I looked in your room and you had broken the bed and you had just taken the mattress and put it on the floor, which made me feel really bad. But I felt bad for you because I know that you go through life like really tall. Don't make this girl feel uncomfortable. Don't get in other people's space. Try to leave a low footprint. Don't wander onto the roof. I don't want to fall through my own house into my neighbors. Don't break Sean's bed. And here I am making that must have been like your nightmare.
I could see shoddy workmanship, just looking at it. But it was the kind of thing where it's like I went in there and I kind of sat down and like I could feel it rocking a bit and like, all right, something about this isn't right, but I'm gonna trust the craftsman on this one. And when I got into the bed, I didn't even do anything like aggressive. Like I didn't like backdrop onto the bed or something. I just got into the bed and then I just rolled over and then it just like crack. And then I was like, okay, well, this is fun.
I'm gonna throw that out and get a different one. I'm gonna get a big like log cabin pine
now
bed,
we're talking.
with like raw. Yeah. Next year when you come over, I'll make sure you don't have to sleep on the floor.
Yeah, you need to get a bed worthy of Andre the Giant because clearly that's how I am in your mind. Is
you are the Andre of our group. A case of wine just to get buzzed. You're late. You fall asleep face down in the kitchen and no one can move you.
I lay down plenty of newspaper on the bed before I shit on it. Anyway,
Man.
Yeah, roller coasters. I used to love roller coasters. So I went through a really weird phase with roller coasters where I didn't like them because I was afraid of them, and then I started riding them, and I really liked them, but I couldn't like that first climb. Fucking wrecked me. But anything after that, I had no problem with. But that first climb was always really difficult, and then something clicked. And there was just a period of time where I had no issue whatsoever. Like any fear of height that I had was gone when it came to roller coasters. And then I stopped going on roller coasters for like 6 or 7 years. And then when I finally went on another one again, all of that like resistance I had built up to that fear completely gone. And it was all back to the beginning. And I was like, I can do these as long as I just, keep my eyes shut for the first half of them and like think about very stable thing. You know what it is? It's the wind. It's not the height as much as the wind. Because when you get up there and the wind starts blowing really hard, all you can think about is like, what is actually holding this thing on here? Is this the weed just going to blow away? Is it going to fall over?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know, man. At Canterbury Lake Park, this one in New Hampshire, it's halfway between us. It's one of those like 100-year-old wooden roller coasters where the lap bar comes down on you and you feel like it's really not doing its job. Like, if you really wanted to squeeze out of it and commit suicide, you probably could do it. But what the hell? It passed inspection in 1903, so why should you be worried now?
Right, yeah.
And it's the rickety of the wood that, same thing on Coney Island, whatever. Like, part of the fear is this thing okay to keep running?
Yeah, oddly enough, I actually prefer, as far as that stuff goes, I prefer the wooden ones. Because I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's because they don't go quite as high as the other ones do. Or maybe it's because you can generally see the structure better.
Yeah.
But like I really enjoy the wooden ones. They like if you ever go to Hershey Park. Have you ever been to Hershey Park?
No, but I've driven by it a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, they've got great roller coasters there. They've got 2 really good wooden roller coasters that I highly recommend. Anyway, back to Batman.
That's right.
Yeah, one of the things I really liked about this episode was it reminded me of the episode of The Real Ghostbusters that I feverishly tried to track down as a child back when things were, not on DVD and you just kind of had to hope you would get it if they were playing it on WLVI 56 or whatever. And it's
that takes me back.
it's the episode that is the direct sequel to the movie where the Peter Venkman is talking to a reporter and he tells the story about what happened after they defeated Gozer. And so you see them, they come back to the firehouse all covered in marshmallow, and Janine tells them that their new uniforms arrived. And so you see them at the beginning, they come in, they're all wearing the brown jumpsuits from the movie. And then Janine hands them out their colored uniforms.
Yeah.
And they put all of the marshmallow covered uniforms in a box, and I think Peter is supposed to do something to like deactivate or neutralize the psychokinetic energy or some shit, which obviously he doesn't do. And so those 4 uniforms from the movie all come to life with ghost versions of the Ghostbusters in them. And so they have they have to fight each other. And I always loved that episode because it was the only episode that was like a direct connection to the movie. And it was like an origin, and it involved changing uniforms, which is weirdly something I love in these things. I'm not really sure why.
Yeah. No, you're big into like new Star Trek pins and little designs and lapels and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anytime you have a hero going against a ghost copy of himself in some way, like Terry fighting the Batman suit was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was.
And the way he took it down, how it slowly like went from being a solid object to deflating, and it just turns into a piece of tights at the end. I thought was really well animated, and some of the action stuff is really unique in there.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's kind of like keeping this one from being an all-timer, or at least like a 5 for me from this series, is there's not really a ton of story built into it, because you've got this really cool setup where it's this business guy who preserves his mind in an AI and then decides that he's going to live on by uploading his brain into the brain of his grandson, which is pretty cool. Like, that's a pretty cool story. But that's kind of it. Like, you don't really get any sense about what this guy was about or why he all of a sudden is evil now.
Yeah.
It's just sort of a very kind of quick
Yeah.
bullet point kind of thing.
I would have made it a 2-part episode, and I would have the intelligence be Lex Luthor, and I would have it
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
connect to old school Batman, like when he and Superman teamed up. Like whatever happened to Lex Luthor, I'm not sure, but Lex basically kept his consciousness going. And he wants to control everything Bruce Wayne has, and he starts by taking like that kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a little bit about what I'm doing now with Batman Beyond and Derek Powers. But yeah, I would definitely make it Lex Luthor, and then throw in some more Superman type Easter eggs, maybe, or at least some Easter eggs to Batman's past when his company was a rival to LexCorp or something. I
Yeah.
think that would make this a 5.
Yeah, I think they probably. I'm assuming they probably didn't do that just because they didn't want to burn off Lex Luthor, with not knowing what they were going to do and stuff. But yeah, I think it would be to have Vance be a known character. I think could have been like even all it would kind of take really is if you had part of the introduction of Vance where they're talking about him dying and like uploading his brain. Have there be some sort of connection between Vance and Bruce, whether or not they were like, rivals or something at the time or whatever.
Yeah.
So just to have a little bit more throughway, like obviously it's not a 1-to-1 here, but you've always got the Tommy Elliott character, Hush, who is Bruce Wayne's friend, who then becomes very jealous of him and all that kind of stuff, and like that's always an easy character to pull out, not specifically Hush, but like that sort of other billionaire who's jealous of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, or you could use Hardak from the original animated series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he could take over the suit, and you have the toy maker guy. Awesome. What do we call him?
Oh shit, I don't remember.
Edward Rossum or Rossum something. Damn it!
Awesome.
I know
Was it Awesome Carl?
Yeah.
Awesome Carl.
Carl Rossum.
Yes.
Awesome Carl, who's the toy maker guy from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
That kind of looking actor. Have him be like a really really old man at this point. Nice. Still hanging around with his little Batmite toys who call him Awesome Carl. It could have been a throwback to Hardak. I think that would have been awesome.
Yeah. That
you could even talk about how Hardak thought he was Batman, and Hardak freaked out because he killed someone, and Batman, like he was designed too well.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Yes. Yeah. I wonder because like I do think that they are trying to stand on their own with this show as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so maybe dipping back into the old Batman stuff is not always not what they want to do, because they did it a decent amount in season 1, but they still left room for like new stuff. So maybe they're saving that stuff for special occasions or whatever. But
no, I think they should have done it more.
Yeah.
I think that it's always gonna put a character over. It's always gonna.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah, I mean I think things are so different now that if you were to do this show now, I think if you were to dip back so much that it would feel like, okay, you're just playing on nostalgia and stuff. But at the time, I think personally one of the reasons that I didn't really like Batman Beyond that much was because it was a lot of stuff that I didn't have any connection to. And so, this is a cool story, but would I have, as a kid, liked this more if it was Lex Luthor or Hardak or something? Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you can give kids who like this show their own Batman and their own villains and their own city that's special, but also connect it to the old Batman. I think you can do both at the same time. But I agree. I mean, a lot of fan service, especially these days, audiences are hip to it, and when they see it coming, they're like, "Oh, here we go."
Yeah.
They're just gonna play on nostalgia rather than do a good job creating something new. But they did a good job creating something new. Terry is a cool character with an interesting backstory that's unique. Yeah, I would totally be fine with them dipping back into the old stuff. as long as they did it well, of course.
Yeah.
And I think in a case like this, like Hardak isn't necessarily, it's not like bringing back the Joker or
True.
going back to your bag of tricks.
True,
Hardak's
yeah.
kind of like a not that well remembered character from 2 episodes of the original series.
Classic.
Yeah, I take your point.
Classic Batman villain Hardak, who only appears in the cartoon and nowhere else. That's not. That's
Has
not
there
true.
ever been a Hardak versus Brainiac?
Oh, I don't know. Because I don't know if Hardak really gets a lot of play. I feel like he's probably has shown up once or twice in the comics, but I don't know if it's ever been in the main continuity or anything. But
yeah,
Hardak and Brainiac, yeah. Do they fight? Do they make love? Who's to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
You gotta give it the hard time juice. No shit, I'm fucking up a wrestling phrase. Shit.
hard style juice.
Thank you.
Yes.
What did I say?
Hard time juice.
I like mine better.
Yeah. That'll be the jail, the prison version. Yeah, I think Batman Beyond does a good job of what I was gonna say is I think generally you get a lot more of a pass with that referential stuff if you do a good job setting up your thing as its own thing or the new thing as its own thing. And it's when you are immediately calling back to that stuff where it feels kind of pandery. Like, you know, it's funny, we're watching over on the other podcast, we're just about done with season 2 of Voyager. And in the past maybe 4 or 5 episodes, they have done a lot of name dropping from previous Star Trek stuff. And it feels kind of weird because Voyager is not really that much of a name droppy kind of show up to this point. And then like they mentioned Dr. McCoy, they mentioned Data, Riker literally shows up for like 30 seconds in one episode. And it's a little strange because it feels kind of like, I can't tell if they're doing it to just like make the world, you know, to tie things in and because it's there we can use it, or if it is like, well, nobody's really clicking with this show. We need to start referencing stuff that people know.
Yeah, you can tell they're softly trying to shift Voyager a few times during its production. You know, they're like, well, maybe we're more of a comedy. Maybe we're more serious. I don't know. And back then, you could get 4 solid seasons of bad ratings before you actually got canceled.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's like, I don't know, 66, 70 episodes. That's a ton of data. It's a lot. It's crazy. I mean, seeing as how things come out on Netflix now, and after 90 minutes, they decided, oh, not enough people are engaging with this.
It's
We're just
wild.
gonna cancel it.
It is wild. I mean, I think part of that is just because there is so much stuff. You really got to hit it out of the park from the get-go. But it is crazy to think about how, you know, a show like Sandman, which is a pretty good show, people are like biting their nails wondering whether or not this is going to get renewed after 12 episodes. And then you've got like fucking Highlander, which I don't think anybody actually watched, that was on for 7 years. Like, I don't even know, are there ratings? Were there ratings for Highlander? It was never on a channel. I always had to like dig for it to find it. Who the hell is watching that show?
Yeah, like I don't think how did they know how many viewers actually tuned in? Because they can tell now with data.
Well,
but back then
they had the Nielsen ratings, which is, they still do now, but I don't think is used quite as much, which was basically like something you had to opt into. I think it was essentially like a polling system where if you were a Nielsen household, you logged either manually, or maybe you had a special thing in your cable box or something that would show what your hours were, or on what shows you were watching.
Before cable, you had antennas, and you were basically tuning into a radio frequency. And there's no way for even now terrestrial radio, how do you know how many people on the road are actually listening to you? They're just tuning into a frequency that you're putting out there.
Yeah.
I don't think there is. Like, how do you tell advertisers? You just call people and try to come up with some numbers. I don't know. I have no idea how they figured that stuff out.
Yeah, I have no clue how they keep track of that stuff.
You know, sort of not related, but kind of. You're going through the process of trying to buy a house, and you know all that stuff's hard for everyone listening right now. I know the housing market sucks. But they didn't have credit ratings until like the late 70s and 80s. So
Mhm.
our fucking boomer parents had no problem getting a loan because there was no way to keep track of how shitty they were with money or
Yeah.
how much debt they had.
Also, houses cost like $5,000.
And even though their interest rates were much higher, you could pay off your house much faster.
Yeah, you could buy a house and also get a 4-year degree using like one credit card.
You know what will be the ultimate payback for boomers, though? I know calling someone a boomer is just an idiot old person who's fumbling around with technology and is too stupid to understand it. It's a pretty good insult when you call someone a boomer, right?
Sure.
We're going to be calling people boomers long after boomers are even around. That's their legacy.
That's true. That
From
is
beyond the
probably true.
grave,
Yes.
We're still like we're gonna be calling millennials, all right, boomer, one day. Like
Yeah.
that's the legacy of boomers. Like, sure, they took all the money from us, and there were way too many of them, and all that shit. But once they're gone, it's like fuck them. We're now using their nickname to make fun of each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Housing.
I wonder what kind of shit Gen X's are gonna give us one day, or what I'm gonna get someday as a Gen X. Like, all right, Gen Xer. It's like, yeah, that doesn't really bother me.
Yeah,
At least I'm not a boomer.
Gen X managed to kind of just like keep to themselves for the most part.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ooh, we watched Beavis and Butthead too much. Ooh, grunge, MTV, watch out. But we basically all got jobs and moved the economy, and we assimilated.
Although, I mean, what you would constitute as like crazy parents are all Gen X age now. So I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it. But
yeah, I'm the last year Gen X, so I barely got in. Thank God I dodged the millennial bullet. Another interesting thing about millennials, is when you say to someone who's a millennial, man, you don't seem like a millennial. Usually they go, thank you. If someone said you don't seem like a Gen Xer, I'm like, okay, I don't care. And the reason that happens is because millennials are the first generation that was publicly maligned online. People making fun of millennials, dunking on them in a very public way. And with millennials being online, they could see it. They could see. Mostly, you would shit on younger generations when you were drunk on your porch, hanging out with your neighbors. But now it was online for millennials to see.
Gen X got the old school treatment where all of their maligning was done in print because there were plenty of like magazine articles and all that kind of shit. And I mean, you know, you got the Satanic Panic and all that kind of fun stuff aimed at them. So you know, they had their own dunkings. But
yeah, that's cool. But but millennials were attacked so much that even millennials were embarrassed by other millennial behavior. You know, when eating Tide Pods and all the kind of bullshit that millennials were recording of themselves. Like I think other millennials were even embarrassed. So when you say to a millennial, you don't seem like a millennial, they seem flattered. Like even they don't like that word, which I think is interesting.
Well, you can trace all that stuff back to the Gen X guys who were recording it and making millions of dollars off it in Jackass. So it's all cyclical. It all comes from someplace.
The last bit of this, and then we can go back to Batman, is the greatest generation. You fucking assholes. That's like the first generation. You got to name yourself. You called it yourself the greatest. Go fuck you. Go fuck yourself. And before that, what was the generation before the greatest generation? Is that when we started labeling generations every 15 years as a turnover, and we just named these new groups of people?
I don't know. I don't know where that started.
Start all of a sudden.
I mean, I thought I was under the impression that the greatest generation thing was something from a book, like it was a term given that era from
right,
because
it might have been
because I mean it was it's the generation that won World War II essentially,
right,
so and brought us back from the Depression.
But before that, before the greatest generation, who came before them? The Cowboys?
The Flappers.
The Flapper generation? That wasn't a thing. Or the Romans? I have no idea how generation labeling started. It might have something to do with sociology and psychology and the progression of those fields. Started to crunch data and look at human behavior, and that's when we started this stuff. It might just come from academics.
Yeah, I think it's just a desire for whatever reason to need to label things and put them into boxes.
Right.
And when, that's why I find it all so silly, because it's when you start getting out to, where what your generational label is defined in the same way that they do like astrological signs, where it's like, well, if you were born in May of 1980, you're actually a Gen Xer. But if it's in June of 1980, then you're a millennial. It's like, who gives a shit? Like, this is all made up.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend who's 5 years younger, and he grew up in northern Maine, where his school system was not upgraded at all. So he played the same shitty Oregon Trail that I did. He
Nice.
had the same. So he, even though he's technically a millennial, he reads like a Gen Xer. He gets all the jokes.
Sure,
He
sure.
knows all the styles. Mullets were still a thing long after they should have been, where he went to school. So I feel very close to him, even though technically he's a millennial.
Yeah, nice. Excellent. Yeah. You can gift him an NES cartridge game and he reacts as though you just bought him a car.
On Instagram, I follow one of those retro channels or whatever, and they'll show like a portable CD player jammed into a tape deck hanging out of like inside your car. Like, this is how you used to plug in your, like, if you know what this is, you're a Gen Xer. Like, I don't know why, but I really enjoy those things.
Yeah. I saw a video one time. I have to imagine this is fake, but honestly, like, that's just how these things work, and it probably isn't fake, where
Yeah.
it was younger children, so like kids who were probably like in their early teens, adolescents,
Yeah.
who didn't know what a rotary telephone was for.
Right.
And like how to use it or what to do with it. And that's one of those things
Yeah.
where I, as someone who lived through the bridge gap between rotary touch tone and then obviously cell, I'm like, come on, how do you not, how could you possibly not know that? And I'm like, well, I mean, these rotary telephones haven't really existed for 30 years. So, I mean, I guess it is completely feasible that a younger kid would have no idea what that is, the same way I wouldn't know what, a Betamax player is or a 8-track or something.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking 8-track too. That's something that we just missed.
Yeah.
If I remember seeing them at flea markets, and I knew they were different. I couldn't tell you why we upgraded, why the cassette tape is better. I know there is literally 8 tracks inside of those things, but I don't know. Is the sound quality any good? Why did we upgrade them like that? I have no idea.
I think it's just like anything. The 8-track is just really clunky and like big and bulky, whereas the cassette tape holds more songs and it's just sleeker and takes up less room in a car if you're going to put one in a car. And they never had portable 8-tracks the way that they did like Walkman and stuff like that. So I say
about when I was.
I was just going to say, I say the thing about not knowing how to use a rotary phone being not really believable, but like if you handed me a mini disc player, I'd be like, I don't know what this is.
I assume you could figure it out.
Yeah, but that's equating a mini disc player, which was around for like maybe 5 years, to a rotary telephone, which had been around for like 80 years. Probably not a 1-to-1.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Well, my tattoo, I have a gear shift on my hand, and younger people will get, and it's upside down. My hand is hanging by my side, so I'll go into a gas station, and some Gen Z will be working there, and he's like, "Oh, is that Japanese on your hand? It looks like kanji or something." And I'm like, "No." I turn it over, and it's like something 50-50, whether like, "Oh, it's a stick shift." They're like, "Nope, still don't know what that is, sir. Please move along."
I thought you were going to say they look at it and say, "Is that a rotary telephone?"
Oh man, yeah, I've never seen a rotary telephone tattoo.
That's actually a pretty good tattoo.
Yeah,
Like
where would you put it though?
I don't
around
know.
Your nipple, belly button, around your cock.
That would be a great belly button tattoo if it was just a rotary telephone dial.
Like, all right, dude. You're at the beach. You look at your buddy. You're like, "That's bold."
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. It's more culturally. It'd be more culturally relevant to me than whatever that fake tribal thing you have is. So, not you.
Exactly.
That's a general fictional you. But
that's funny, man. What if there's a secret society of telephone operators that have that tattoo, and they're all put out of commission now because you don't really need operators anymore?
I'd have respect for that.
Yeah. Like, what kind of conspiracy theory would that fit into?
Yeah, that's why grandma only wears a one piece so they can't see her rotary dial telephone tattoo.
I remember rotary. I hated dialing my friends that had zeros in the number
Because it takes
doing the
so
zero,
long.
Like,
Click, 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 click,
where it's like 1, 1, 1, 1, no problem. Bam, I'm in and out of there. Dialing tens. Fuck you. I'm just gonna call someone else.
We had one of each in the house. We had a rotary upstairs and a touchstone downstairs. And I definitely I think you are triggering a memory of me as a child being like, who even uses this? Why would you spend this time? The zero takes so long. I could be pressing the button downstairs and be done with this by now. So that's the amount of adversity I faced as a child.
It's a lot, man. It's a lot. I got nothing.
Yeah. Anyway, moving back to Batman. So this is another episode where Terry straight up just kills somebody at the end of it. If you want to call it murder, because I mean you can get into all sorts of weird ethical science fiction debates over whether or not this AI program is an actual person, and does destroying the program, does that count as killing this person? Because it was his consciousness that was uploaded. But either way, it doesn't end with him putting Vance on a thumb drive and then like throwing him into a desk drawer somewhere. He just kills this guy.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think it's death. I don't know if I like the 2001 when Hal dies, he reverts back to being a child and he starts singing ABCs and stuff. I don't know if that was something I would have done in the scene.
Are you talking about specifically how you would have handled 2001: A Space Odyssey or this episode?
No. Sorry.
Okay.
When Vance dies, he has the baby's voice.
Okay. I was going to say that's a hard shift.
Sorry.
It's like, this episode of Batman was okay, but what I would have done is I would have taken another swing at the script for Barry Lyndon. I just don't think it's where it could have been.
Sorry, I thought it was clear. Because if you didn't know that shutting down a computer would resort the computer back to an earlier state, then Vance turning into a goo goo gaga baby at the end might be confusing to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think that works unless you've seen 2001 or know about programming.
Yeah, that seems like the kind of thing that they probably threw in there because they do it in 2001. It's probably just a reference that they threw in for their own shits and giggles.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I hadn't seen 2001 back then, and I was, prime age for this, so I think that joke went over most people's heads.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so that's 90% of Simpsons jokes, and I learned more about Citizen Kane from The Simpsons than I did from actually watching Citizen Kane.
I know. I had a real good impression of who President whatever. The president they always made fun of. This is killing me right now. He was impeached.
Nixon?
I am not a crook.
Nixon.
Thank you. Oh my God, my brain is not working. Yeah, I had a really strong impression of who Nixon was, and I knew he was kind of a shitty person because I watched The Simpsons.
Oh yeah,
He died before I was born. I really had no idea who he was until I started watching The Simpsons. I felt like, our culture as a society, as a whole, has decided Nixon was kind of an idiot. And that he's just like the butt of the joke. Of any bad president joke, you just get to talk about Nixon now.
Yeah. My understanding of Gerald Ford was based entirely on like Dan Aykroyd's SNL impression, which is not very good. Although no, he did. I'm sorry, that was Chevy Chase. Aykroyd did Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like the last line when Terry is going to take the night off, and then Bruce says it's only the suit that's out of commission, not Batman. That was good.
Yeah, but then it's like, fuck you, I don't get a night off? Like, I'm fucking tired, dude. I have homework.
You're not going to let me wear the old suit, but you're going to tell me I got to go out and fight crime still.
Yeah. I think I'm just taking a night off. Sorry. I think that's what Terry's line should have been.
Yeah, I abandoned my girlfriend in a broken elevator. Give me the fucking night off, man.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what kind of Terry better be set up with a massive trust fund for what he's doing right now. Like, he's not making minimum wage with Bruce Wayne. He's got to be taken care of, right?
I assume so. Yeah, I assume.
Yeah.
Bruce is giving him cash under the table or something.
I don't want to have to report this I don't want to have to pay taxes on this.
This is going to make
$10.99 from Bruce Wayne.
This is going to make things really complicated for me at the end of the year. So,
do not cast this check until later.
You'll notice it's post dated. What would you want to draw on this one?
I would draw Terry in his Nightwing mask,
Yeah.
in his outfit, the bat belt, but I'd also have him show up in the old Batmobile
Yeah.
or a bat cycle.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually think I might want to draw the fight with the suit, Terry fighting the suit, because I feel like you could do some cool like Terminator stuff with that, where like, you know, he smashes the head open, and so you've got like the head of the bat suit just like split in half or something while he's still coming. That'd be pretty fun.
They could have done a lot with that. Yeah, I like when he just wants to drown Terry so that he can have just a dead body inside the suit.
Oh
That
yes,
was really
that's pretty fucked up.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in my book, it's coming out. I have in issue 7, Powers is able to take over the suit, so Terry is just stuck inside of it, and Powers warns him like, "If you keep fighting this, I will break you in half backwards."
Yeah.
So Terry is like horrified, and he's forced to fight Bruce, and he's like crying, and he's like, "Jesus Christ, please save me, Mr. Wayne." And meanwhile, he's kicking Bruce's ass because he's not in control. It's pretty fun. A lot of action in issue 7.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, when I touched on that, I'm like, man, I feel like I wish I had more space to play with this more. But like all my books, I throw in a lot of ideas, and I end up feeling very impressed.
Yeah. Well, you know, it happens.
Yeah.
Better to have too many ideas than not enough, I guess.
That's fair. I mean, a lot of people complain that, you know, comic is $5. It takes me 15 minutes to read, and it's just one fight scene, and nothing really happens. That
Right.
seems to be what people complain a lot about in comics. And with mine, people say it takes me twice as long to read it. There's a lot of ideas in there, and they wish that I had spent more time on smaller ones, but it is what it is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Also, getting a artist to draw inset panels is fucking impossible. This is going to be some insider baseball, but so I write 6 or 7 panel pages, and I get away with it. The reason that they don't feel crowded is because I'll take small moments like
Yeah.
guy hitting button or the guy grabbing doorknob, and I'll shrink it down to the size of a stamp. So technically, it's a 7 panel page, even though it's technically it's 7, but even though it only looks like 6.
Yep.
And those small inset panels are nice little drum beats inside the music of each page, so to speak. And I keep trying to tell artists who are doing White Knight stuff like, do inset panel, and they don't fucking know what that is. And I'm like, is that a thing that we just don't, most artists don't do anymore? It's such a clever way to save space on a page.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a moment like that recently in one of the things that I was writing, where I wrote, okay, this can be I had that was my way that I envisioned it. Was like, okay, I wrote in the thing, small panel. You know, this is someone clicking a button on something. This doesn't need to be a big deal. And then when I saw the page, that panel was like one of the biggest panels on the page. And I was like, what? And my note was, I think we can free up some space here if we shrink this panel way down. But, you know, it is interesting how, I don't know, maybe it's a matter of being clearer with that stuff or what. But you'd think when you say small panel, you'd get across that there should be a small panel. But
yeah, I don't want to have to do layouts for my artists. I think that's insulting, and I don't want to spend the time doing it. But
yeah,
it's frustrating because I'm like, I know how to make this work. You know, don't like Mateo. I can use him as an example. He had a hard time understanding inset panels, but he's got his own thing going on, and like most of the stuff I would pitch him, he would knock out of the park. So even though he struggled with inset panels, he still made it work in his own way.
Yeah,
because he's that talented, and I underestimated how few artists are that good. It's not just like, I mean, we're hiring people that can do splash pinups, and their stuff is really exciting, and they have some heat. But when it comes down to it, like, do they have the ability to perform on interiors and actually tell a story? That's the part where I'm always left like, oh yeah, wow, we really don't focus on basics when we teach sequential art anymore, and it totally shows. You can absolutely see which artists are trying to think cinematically and be crystal clear in their storytelling, and which artists are like, you know, Michael Bay, where it's like shot, upshot, 3-point perspective, you know, fade, you know, motion blur, blah, 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 like sun coming through the window. Oh, everything is awesome. Everything is awesome. And when every panel looks like a pinup, it's like so overwhelming as a reader. You're like, Jesus Christ, just give me clarity.
right.
Like Mike Mignola's stuff is so nice to look at, not because it's punching you in the face, but because he puts the camera like 6 feet off the ground. It's like he doesn't do any 3-point perspective shots because Mike hates drawing that kind of perspective. He'll tell you himself.
Right. Yeah.
He found a way to make boring camera angles exciting because clarity is fun. And when you use so many crazy camera angles in comics and you lose clarity, the reader's not having a good time anymore. You know?
Right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that's my rant.
No. I mean, that's the name of the game, right? I mean, clarity is number one on the list. Is clarity of what your image is and clarity of the story that you're telling, and moving effectively from panel to panel to tell that story. And I mean, you can have all the flash and sizzle that you in the world, if you can't be clear with the story that you're telling, it's not really worth much.
Yeah. My set of covers for Beyond, I basically use the same template for each one to keep some consistency. And I treat it like a magazine cover where we're not doing crazy camera angles. It's just head to toe characters perched on some kind of a building or a chimney with things going on in the background. And I even have a square behind them so that there's a panel within the cover just to give colorists something else to play with. And I'm not really sure it works. Like if I could go back and redo some of those things, I would, but I'm committed to it. So now I keep doing the same thing. And I know people would look at it and go, "Oh, that's boring design." Like, right, it is. It's just meant to stand out and be clear on the shelf, amongst all the crap that comes out. And I'm not saying each individual cover is crap, but when you look at a comic book shelf with all these different covers on it, it's like a Skittles explosion.
Right.
It's just like candy. It's like, oh my God. And your eye gravitates towards simple blacks or simple colors, like a monochromatic palette or whatever.
Right.
So that's like I know that my covers can be boring and simple, but that's the point. That's what makes them stand out. It's a relief to look at one of my books compared to everything else out there that's trying to compete with each other.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you've got if you get a wall full of books that are the entire color wheel, and then there's one book that's just yellow. I mean, your eye's going to be drawn to that's just how things work.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Same with thing at a convention when you have your booth set up. Whatever your banner looks like, make it simple. Make it like a blue square that you can see from a mile away.
Right.
But whatever you go with, like, oh man, it's so boring. Why don't you do more stuff? Like I'm telling you, a nice white banner behind me is like a relief to look at compared to all the other candy explosions out there.
Right, yeah. That makes a lot more sense to me now that you said that you treat them like magazine covers, because it explains why all the issues of White Knight have recipe lists on the front and interviews with celebrities.
Well, I interview myself at the end of each one.
Oh, that's true, yeah. You should start putting that on the cover. An exclusive interview with Sean Murphy at the end of this book.
A little inset panel with my face.
Yeah, there you go. What would you rate this episode?
I'm going to go 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 as well. I think it's worth a 4. For the stuff that we've seen in Batman Beyond, I would say this is a 4. I don't know if this would be a animated series TAS 4, but but for Batman Beyond, I think it's a 4. I'm really interested to see if my theory about the dialogue holds any water. Whether or not they are just like, let's get these guys in here, get them out in an hour, and then spend the rest of the time on the visuals. Yeah,
I'm hoping the character Max adds more to it. I hope that she brings in something that the series needs. Having her get involved in knowing Terry's secret, and I think she knows who Bruce Wayne is too. I forget how deep she's brought in on this stuff, but I'm looking forward to that because all that stuff is plot, and it's not just action. And we're getting tons of action, which is cool, but I kind of miss having more plot. So I'm hoping that Max fixes the emptiness that I'm feeling with some of these episodes.
Yeah. Well, we will be looking forward to that when we are back next time with coverage of Hidden Agenda and Bloodsport. Thank you guys for listening to the show. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time.